Hey guys, Devoted Family Dad here to share a little bit of things with you, and that's about cars. That's right, especially sports cars. I've always been into sports cars since I was a teenager, and yeah, I'm 47 now, and I just love Corvettes. I love Camaros. You know, that's some of my favorites. I've had Mustangs before, and even the Dodge Chargers, the Scat Packs. Fun cars, really fun cars. And I have friends who are into sports cars. They're, you know, enthusiasts like I am. And I always do my own work on the cars when it comes to modifications, exhaust work, you know, just doing a lot of things to make it perform better. And my friends, you know, sometimes, you know, they come to me for me to help them with their car modifications and exhaust and all that good stuff. And it's fun. I get to kind of explore different cars and see what's under the hood and what kind of potential there is and try to get it to perform at its maximum potential, that is. And it's just a fun thing. I've been doing this for so long. And, you know, when you see cars coming and going in my garage, it's a lot of my friends coming over wanting me to do this or do that. And, you know, I do it for fun. It's not like I do it for business. I do it for fun. You know, I'm not charging anybody anything. I just, hey, you know, this is fun. Let's work on a project. Sometimes they help me with it. I help them. And yeah, it's really fun. And as you see right now, I've been working on my friends' cars. And, you know, you see different vehicles in this driveway in here. And yeah, as far as exhaust goes, you know, you can have something really loud, something tamed down, you know, give you a little bit more horsepower if it's louder, obviously. And one of the things right here that I did in when I had a Camaro is this right here. You want to talk about the performance there? Yeah, fun stuff. It really is. And if you ever want to do modifications for the intake, then, you know, of course, with my Camaro, I did this, put the air intake in there, took out the stock one, which is really good. But, of course, the aftermarket one, it's just more air circulating through, more air going in through the throttle body, you know, especially if you get a bigger throttle body, you know, one that's just slightly bigger to let more air in. And that gave you more performance as well. You know, 'cause in the Corvette, this was the stock right here, the stock air intake system there. So yeah, it's kind of limited. You know, if you look at the filter, I would show you the other one. Maybe I'll get a chance to show you soon, maybe. And speaking of throttle body, there you go. If you guys are wondering what one looks like, this is for a between a 2016, 2019, you know, Camaro. It even fit in a Corvette, and it's a pretty big one there. And right here, you know, you see it's smooth, very smooth. You know, you want to have good airflow. And right in this flap here, you know, you got to make sure all that's clean. So there's none of that gunk building up. You can get a little gunky after a while. So make sure you have the good gas, keep it clean. But yeah, between that and, of course, the increased airflow, you're going to get more horsepower. But then, of course, you know, your car, it has to adjust to it. Your computer can compensate and adjust for the changes, but if it's too extreme, then of course it's not going to run right. So you might have to do some adjustments, some reprogramming, and get it to accept the increase of airflow. Because, you know, if it's really big, significant, different amount of airflow, it's going to throw the computer off, and it may not be able to compensate what the program is from the factory. So, you know, you have to make some adjustments. But other than that, you know, that's the deal. But of course, you start making adjustments like that, you might as well kiss your warranty goodbye. So that's just a warning right there. That's why I, you know, with my vehicles, when I have them, because I don't keep them long. I don't know what's going on. I recycle cars like crazy. But I do everything but programming the cars, because I don't want to screw up the warranty, you know, unless it's an older car and, you know, it's already expired warranty. And it's like, all right, you know what, get the most out of it. You know, what do you got to lose except for maybe something blows up, you know, if you don't, you know, do something right, which is why you got to be very careful, you know, especially an older car. But other than that, guys, I've been working on a project, and I've been watching these videos lately. I guess in the last couple of months, especially out at the place in Florida, that's when I started to watch this particular guy. And he kind of steered me into buying a car, like just changing out. Basically, I had one vehicle. I was like, okay, it's time to move to a different car. I want something more reliable, because I had a Buick Enclave. You know, it was a family SUV. It was fun, all-wheel drive. Gas mileage was horrendous, though. You know, forget about it. You know, it just eats up gas. So I wanted something that was going to be reliable, good on gas, be able to fit 5 people, and you know, still have some power, but not, you know, not overpower. You know what I mean? It's like, I want all that power, you know, just stick with the Corvettes and the Camaros and Mustangs and Dodge Chargers and stuff like that. So, you know, when it comes to just saving on the fuel and the economy and kind of have that balance of power, I decided to go with the Camry. So at the advice of someone who's into cars, who particularly likes Toyota products, I think you know who you are. And for those of you who are wondering who it is, I'm talking about Scotty Kilmer. You know, I was watching his videos and he's always praising the Toyota products. You know, he's a fan of the Toyota and also Honda. And so I was just doing a lot of research and I'm like, you know what, maybe it's time to change. I've always had GM products. You know, I've had the Mopar products and even had some of the Ford products. And when I was younger, I had some Mazda products. I had like the Mazda Rx-7. I'm going to tell you guys all the cars I've had since like I was a teenager till now. Kind of maybe a little story behind them. But behind me, of course, is the Camry, which, yeah, it's a fun car. For a four-cylinder, I'm surprised. It'll get up and go, but when you have your whole family in there, you're gonna know it's gonna weigh it down, and you're gonna feel the strain on that four-cylinder. But when it's just me driving, I can feel it's got some of that get up and go, especially when you hit the higher RPM. For a four-cylinder, it's not bad, especially since it's not turbocharged. And I like the idea that it's not turbocharged. You know, I feel something that has a turbocharger, especially on a four-cylinder, you're trying to get so much out of a small engine, and it's just gonna wear it sooner, and there's more parts to fail, and it's like, forget it, you know what, just go with the aspirated, naturally aspirated, and not worry about it. You know, this lasts longer, and it's a reliability that I really want. And with reliability, of course, comes excluding the turbo boosters, you know, all that good stuff. You don't need that if you're looking for something like a family car that's reliable, you know. But if you want something that has a little bit more power, but then you kind of trading off gas mileage and reliability, then, you know, have something that's got the turbocharger in it. Another thing is, you know, I was thinking about like the Teslas, and I'm like, you know what, Teslas are a fun car. Electric power, you can get like 300 miles to the whole charge, somewhere around 240, 250 miles, you know, it depends on what model you get. They're fun, you know, definitely. They got a lot of torque, a lot of power, especially since it's directly driven by a motor. So there's no like transmission that shifts through. It's just a direct motor drive. So you're feeling like instantaneous power. It's just like when you put it down, it's just available right there immediately, which is a total different car, you know, feel than a car that has, you know, the engine with the transmission, because, you know, you're shifting through the gears and your torque is building up as you hit higher RPMs. On those electric cars, you pretty much feel it instantaneously, you know. So it's almost like you're in a go-kart, maybe, in a way, you know, those electric go-karts, you know, but of course with a lot more power. But yeah, I tell you what, I'm sweating right now, guys. It's hot in here, and I'm wearing too much, really, for the occasion. But you guys are amazing, and I really wanted to share some of the things with you, and I'm going to get right to the story, you know, basically where I started in the car world. And you guys have watched my videos and you've seen so many different cars. You've seen Corvettes, Camaros, Mustangs, Chargers, you name it. I've had it in the house, you know, in the garage, on the property. Some of those cars, of course, were mine, and some were my friends. And sometimes I'm like, maybe I better not tell everybody what car is really mine and what car is my friend's, because, you know, it's just one of those things for the sake of privacy. You know, you don't want to just give out too much information. Those days where I could afford those kinds of cars, those days have been over many years ago. So, you know, when you have kids, you prioritize your finances, and these things change. They really change. So, you know, you can't be just blowing your money on cars and stuff. You know, you really need to save. Unless I guess some people go through this mindset, you know, especially when they get older, and they just start to worry about like all their accomplishments, and, you know, what they have accomplished, what they haven't accomplished, and they want to be able to live things up before it's that time, because, you know, when you get a certain age, you start to think, hey, you know, my time's coming soon, and I want to be able to enjoy some things I haven't been able to enjoy yet before that time is up. And sometimes we kind of blow money, you know, spend it on things, thinking that's going to be the last time we have something, and it might be the first and last time that we have something nice that we can play with, have fun with, before, you know, that time's up. And that kind of, you know, that can happen to people, and it happened to me quite a few times. And I would get a car and I would keep it for a while, and I'd have fun with it, then reality would hit me. It's like, I cannot afford this car. It's too much car for me. Too much gas it's eating up. The taxes were too high. Car insurance was too high. Just the price of the car itself. And after kind of getting in touch with reality, I would sell it to the car dealer, trade it in for something more affordable. And this has been a cycle that I've been going through for years. And it doesn't help with my kind of business. You know, you have good peaks in your business, bad, especially if you're working more hours. It seems to be more of a seasonal thing as well. I get a lot more clients, a lot more business during the summer months, so it keeps me busier. Winter, it's kind of slower, and it just seems to be that way for me. And it's unpredictable, it really is. You know, there's that baseline, and if you try to live off that baseline, you know, it's hard, because you really got to budget everything. You got to watch what you're spending and be careful about, you know, the food you buy, and you try to buy as healthy as you can. And sometimes that comes with a price tag, because, you know, good food, healthy food can cost you a lot of money unless you have your own farm. And in some communities, they don't even allow you to have a garden because of HOA. So it's like, wow, you're kind of stuck in a situation. And the only way out of it, of course, is if you can find some place where you can get away with it and have a garden and everything else you wanted to do. And it might be easier. Maybe live out in a cabin in the middle of the woods, out in the middle of the wilderness or something like that. And yeah, get away from all those confidence restrictions and all those rules from the HOA. You know, HOA, I always liked the fact that the neighborhood would be clean, upkept. You know, it keeps the value of your homes higher. You know, especially if it's a gated community, you feel safer. You know, the wrong kind of undesirable people coming into the neighborhood with wrong intentions, especially when you have teenage girls and kids. You know, you don't want them to be around that kind of crowd. So yeah, you pay a little bit more to have that protection, that peace of mind. And that's when you're putting your family before everything else. And then, of course, when you want to have a little fun and you're like, okay, so, you know, banks are willing to give you a loan for so much. And you think, well, with my credit being so good, you know, why not? It's not like I have, you know, I had paid off something. It's not like I had any bad, you know, experiences with taking out a loan, and figured, why not take out a loan for, you know, back then it was a sports car, and I've had the Corvette, of course, and then the Camaros. And it's always like getting bank loans, and sometimes I'll have that loan for a year, and then I sell the car, and then the loan gets paid off by whoever buys the car, and then I end up either selling it or trading it, and it happens a lot. And unfortunately, every time that happens, I'm losing money. Not like you're not making money unless you have a car like maybe Toyotas. You know, get a Supra or something. Get just a Toyota that's, you know, back then it was, not so expensive, but now you're getting like 10 times the amount of money. And it's like crazy how some cars just go up in value. Like I had a Mazda Rx-7, you know, it was like $2,500 back then when I bought it. And this was back in it's like 92. And now they're worth like $12,000 to $15,000 or more. And it's like, wow, you know, people are looking for those cars. So it's crazy how it is. But anyway, let me tell you guys about the kind of cars I've had and my experiences with them. And we're going to start off with when I was living in Jersey, you know, back when I was still going in high school. And I had it's a 1982 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme with a 3.8 liter V6, 232 cubic square inch engine. I was carbureted. Speedometer only went to 85, and whether or not I reached that, I shouldn't probably expose that, you know, but I did have an experience where I had to reach to that limit of that car for the safety of my passenger and myself. What I mean by that is we were at a traffic light, and I was talking on a CB radio, and I had my friend with me, and we somehow aggravated these people. They got so agitated because we were interfering with them, and for some reason they did not like the person that was in the car with me, and up to this day I don't know why. And they ended up saying things on the radio that were very confrontational, very threatening, and it was one of those things where it's fight or flight. And back then, as a kid, I didn't grow a pair back then. You know, it took a while before I was like brave enough to deal with those kinds of situations without running away. So I made that choice. Instead of the fight, I took the flight, and took off. And then there was a red light coming up. And I was like, oh crap, what do I do? Do I blow this light? Do I go? Unfortunately, it wasn't a safe option. Either way, it wasn't safe. If I blew the light, I was going to end up in a T-bone situation with the cars coming the other way. And if I stayed, I don't know if the two people in that truck that had the big antenna on it, I think it was a Toyota pickup, I didn't know if they were going to come out with their guns because they said they had guns in the car. And I'm like, oh crap, we got a problem here. And I didn't know if they were going to shoot from behind or what was going to happen. But they decided to ram us in the back in the car. And then I was like, oh, this is serious. So I ended up waiting. And finally the light turned green and I just sped off. And I had the car floored. And I was saying, oh, wow, what's going on here? We're getting away. You know, it's like, this is cool. And all of a sudden, the truck starts catching up. And it's almost like I don't know, they had a turbo boost or what the hell they got in that engine. But we had a head start, and all of a sudden, it's like they just started coming faster and faster. And they were right up on us again. Then I decided to do some maneuvers in the highway, kind of go zigzagging. Then I had that thing gunned, and pretty much we were hitting the limits of the speedometer at that point. And that's where it was like, okay, I think maybe going fast would be the best option to get out of this. And at that time, you know, I was going way over the speed limit. I'm like, I was hoping that there was going to be a police officer. I was hoping that a cop was going to pull me over. I figured being pulled over was going to deter the thugs chasing us, you know, and that they would just, you know, pass on by and pretend nothing happened. But no cops to be found anywhere. And it's the only time that I was hoping, like if I'm speeding, you know, this is the only time I was hoping I was going to get like police involved. But no, nothing. And so the chase kept going on. And it was as hard on the straightaway because it was like, you know, the Toyota was keeping up because it was a straight shot. But finally, I took a sudden turn into a neighborhood. So we were like squealing tires. The back of the car was spinning and everything. And went down a slow, windy road. And it was a little hard for that truck to keep up at that point. You know, you kind of catch up on the straight part of the curves, you know, the roads. But then once we hit the windy, that was it. You know, you slowed down or whatever. And after about 2 miles of that, we finally lost them because we outmaneuvered them. And then we pulled over to some place and got out of the car and just went shopping, basically, at a flea market. And that was the end of that situation. But had some problems there. And that was in my old Cutlass Supreme with a 3.8 liter V6. You know, it didn't have a whole lot of horsepower. I wish it did at that time. You know, I got it over with faster. And these are experiences in this particular car, you know. So had a dent in the car. My father was not too happy about it. He was also outraged that somebody was after me and my friend. And he was like wondering why, like, what have we done? What was the cause? What's the reason? Usually people that are doing, you know, like drug dealers or something may get caught up in a mess like this, but total like strangers on the CB, like I don't know them from nowhere and they only hear of us in the CB, and just because we're interfering somehow and they can't communicate, they get all out of shape about it. But anyway, you had to deal with the dent in that car, so that was the way it went. And a few months later, I had another situation which kind of got a little complicated in the same car. And I was riding around with a friend of mine, and we went to the 7-Eleven store. It's usually the place we hang out sometimes is, you know, we're into CB radios and stuff. We'd hang out there, get together, and everybody would just talk and stuff, and then we would just split up after that. Went there, a friend of mine had a BB gun, and I'm like, huh, I didn't know about it. I was like, oh, that's cool, the little pellets, a little BB gun, you know. You shoot little pellets in it, and you know, you hit cardboard and it might penetrate the cardboard half the time. Didn't really think much of it. Just, you know, harmless BB gun, you know, something that the kids would have, you know, teenage kids maybe. I guess somebody must have thought it was something other than a BB. Maybe they thought it was, you know, something more intense, more dangerous. So the cops were called, and they identified the car. Of course, the Cutlass Supreme that I was driving. I was oblivious of it at the time. We backed out because we were done hanging out and started driving back to the home neighborhood. And that's when we had cop cars. Like, there was a bunch of cop cars heading towards the 7-Eleven. I was like thinking, what is going on? It's like, is something happening? We just like, you know, it's kind of intrigued. Like, it's intrigued. I was like curious. Like, okay, so there's a lot of cop cars flying that way. We need to find out what's going on. So we were going to turn around just to see where they were going. But we didn't have to do that because they started to turn around, and then they were behind us. I'm like, well, damn. So now that maybe they didn't know where they were going. And I said, that's kind of rare. So yeah, they turn around and then they're behind us. And then so I said, okay, let me speed up a little and move over, get out of their way. So I did that and got over to the side, but they didn't pass me. They kind of surrounded me. Like one was behind and one kind of went on the other side and one went in front. I kind of got boxed in. And then they had the speaker and they were like, put your hands up in the air. And I'm like, all right, what is going on? At this point, I'm totally clueless. I'm like, why? Is this like, are we in the movies or something? Like, what in the freak is going on? And, you know, this Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme that I had T-tops in it. So we didn't have the tops on, you know, we had the T-tops off. They're just removable panels. You take both sides off. And so we were putting our hands in the air through the T-tops. And, you know, I was like, what the freak? So they come over with their guns, you know, they got their guns. They are fixated on us. I'm like, well, damn, you know, at this point, I'm like, we're gonna have a bad situation unfold because I don't know how trigger happy these police are. I don't know what the deal is. If they got mixed up, it's one of those cases of mistaken identity. And I was just told, like, I just had no trust, especially the situations that have gone on around there in that time. And so we just obeyed all commands like you should do, right? Unless they're fake cops, but they were real. And they started asking for a gun. Well, that got complicated. That really did. And anyway, to make a long story short, they saw the CB radio in my car. They saw police radio in my car, and they were wondering what I was doing with the police radio. And they ended up confiscating the police radio. They left my CB in the car, though. They confiscated that, and they confiscated a couple other things that were radio equipment related, because I was always into radios. And the police radios were decommissioned radios that I found at the flea markets, and I take them and I modify them so I can use them on a different band, you know. And I guess they wanted to make sure they weren't stolen, so they took it, and they said they'd give it back if it wasn't stolen. Well, yeah. Well, that never happened. I never got it back, and it was never reported stolen. Yeah. So my friend ended up not getting in trouble, which is, you know, good. I mean, he had a BB gun, and everything was okay. Once they found out it was a BB gun, the whole situation was explained, and nobody was trying to pass the BB gun off as anything as a real, you know, weapon or anything. It was just, you know, misunderstood, misconstrued by some people, and they told us why, you know, they came. What the whole situation was that led to them chasing us. And yeah, so somebody called, thought that, you know, he was with a real weapon there. But that was another adventure, you know. I was like, oh boy, here we go again. And that was just the one car. But anyway, then it seems like that didn't stop then. And it was about a couple months after that, I was driving home and somebody was turning left to go into the neighborhood. I was turning left to go into my neighborhood from the opposing lanes. So, you know, there was a car parked here and then me going this way, you know, well, they were going to turn. And it was a pretty big car, you know, you couldn't really see much behind them. And somebody was coming up behind that car that was turning left. So instead of them being patient to wait for them to turn left, they gunned it and went to the right to pass on the shoulder. And I was already in my turning left into my neighborhood, and then I got hit on the side back of the car, and that damaged it. And the insurance company claimed that as a total loss. So that was the end of that car, basically. You know, total loss. It bent the frame, and I didn't get it thicker because it wasn't my fault. Because the guy was flying on the shoulder. You know, he shouldn't have been doing that, and it was in a blind spot. You know, and I was already into my turn, and that's how that went. So I ended up, you know, the insurance paid for that car. And we ended up looking around, my father and I saw a Mazda Rx-7 that drew interest to me. And that was a 1985 Mazda Rx-7. And that was a nice little car. And I was like, I test drove it, and it was 5-speed manual transmission. And I was like, that's the car I gotta have. And then I ended up getting it. It was a beautiful color. It was like it was a metallic sky blue kind of color there. Had the retractable headlights on it, and had the rotary engine in there. It was pretty powerful. It did eat a lot of gas though, but it had that unique sound to it, that rotor engine sound. You know, it's just really neat, fun car. I enjoyed that. Then I moved south, and that's the car I took when I moved further south from Jersey, and enjoyed driving that car for quite a few months before that car ended up getting totaled because I was driving on some windy back roads in a mountainous area, and there was a truck going up the road, and they were going quite slow, and it was in a passing zone, so I had the right of way to pass. There was nobody in the other lane. I gave it some gas, and the rear tire just like exploded. And when it exploded, the back end fishtailed, and then it went through a barbed wire fence and then over a cliff and down a mountainside and rolled into a pasture of cows. And as that's what's happening, and I'm feeling the rolling, I'm like, oh crap, this is it, you know. You know, you just all that stuff that goes through your head. Plus, I had these giant speakers in the back that were they weren't bolted down. They were because I was into the sound system, so I had this really like loud bass thumping stereo car system in there, and these speakers are like probably 20 pounds each, and they were just sitting there. They were home speakers that I had put in the car at the time, and they just like were flying around as the car was rolling. And I got out of the car, and the car looked like somebody took a tin can and just like crunched it all up, and you couldn't even tell what it was. At that point, you couldn't tell it was a Mazda Rx-7 anymore. You didn't have no idea by the way it looked. And the only injury I got out of that was a little cut behind my ear, which they stitched. It was like 3 stitches, and that was it. I was very disappointed because I was going on a date to take this girl to the movies, and the only thing I remember, like I was saying, is I'm gonna be late, and can I get a ride to take my girl to the movies, because I don't want to be late. This is a special day. And that was my biggest concern. And it's like I didn't care about the car at the time, because all I cared about was taking my girlfriend out to the movies, and that was like my priority. And maybe that was probably why I was in a hurry, because I don't want to be late. But I wasn't speeding or anything, but there was a malfunction that caused the car to spin out of control. So I did not get any kind of ticket for that, because they investigated it and found it to be true what happened. And at that point, it's like, wow, you know, really you got to be careful. Like I said in previous videos, safety first. Inspect your vehicle, you know, do an inspection, a pre-road trip inspection before you're driving anywhere, especially if it's a far trip. Make sure your lug nuts are tight. Make sure, you know, there's no issues with your tires, and check your brakes and all that stuff. Make sure there's no problems. And if I would have done that, could have been avoided. So that was the end of that car. I did drive my previous girlfriend at the time when I was like in my early 20s. I did drive her in that car a few times. She was scared a little because I was heavy on the takeoff. You know, it wasn't like I was speeding over the speed limit, but I would get up to the speed limit in a hurry, you know, and it kind of scared her in the beginning. Then she felt safe, but then I think she told her parents, and then they were concerned, hey, they don't want her driving around in my car because, you know, I'm heavy footed, but you know, it wasn't like I was speeding, just getting to the speed limit faster. So I guess that kind of ended that. Their parents kind of ended it at that point, and I didn't even know that it was ended at that point. And I guess she didn't tell them until after the movie date, because we were going out, you know, to go to the movies and everything. And when I told her my car wrecked, I think maybe she told her parents, and I think that's the point where they just didn't want her riding with me anymore. You know, I think that kind of triggered something. So that was the end of that. And I was like, wow, you know, like parental, you know, involvement. I can understand if I was a parent, I'd be very protective of my kid. I wouldn't want them driving around in a car with another teenager or 20-year-old or what have you. It just, to me, it's, yeah. Even to this day, you know, I'm still very nervous, even with my kids, you know, being around people that are young drivers. You know, I was like, I'll drive you. Just let me know where you got to be. You got to be here, I'll take you there. But that car was gone. So what I ended up getting it was a 1983, I think it was 1983 Buick Regal, and that had a 3.8 liter. So we're pretty much going back to the same engine, same everything, just in a Buick. I had fun with that car, you know, put a hood scoop on it, did a little exterior mod, some striping. I guess I was trying to make it look like the Buick Grand National. You know, they have a Buick Grand National, which has a 3.8 liter turbocharged V6. And that was a quite fast car. They made them in black. And mine was not black though, but mine was white with had the blue stripes. And I was like, wow, you know, at least I had the hood scoop at the end, so I felt like cool. Oh, this is cool, you know, like a Grand National Buick, you know. Had that for a while. I got tired of it. I wanted to get something different, you know. So I was in my 20s still, and I was like, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to get something. Oh, I know what I can get. And I ended up getting, it was a Dodge It was a Dodge, let me think. Now, it wasn't a Plymouth Laser. It was a Dodge, let me guess here. See, memory is fading sometime. What was it? It's the same as a Plymouth Laser, but it was the Dodge version of it. Dodge Daytona. Okay, we're getting back. It was a 1987 Dodge Daytona, 2.5 liter, 4-cylinder, I think it was. Because I had a 2.2 liter turbocharged. No, I think this was a 2.2. Maybe, no, it's a 2.5. But anyway, that was a fun little car. Had some experiences in that car as well. It was jet black color. One day I was driving around in the parking lot at this supermarket, and there was these, I guess, a group of people just hanging out. They had like a rebel flag on their car, and they were like yelling, carrying on, and just getting a little rowdy, blasting country music and stuff. Anyway, I got mad because the fact they were being disrespectful, because I heard them saying some things that were just not appropriate. And I said, I called them out on who they were and that they needed to have some respect, because, you know, I had someone, you know, that works in that particular store, and they were walking to their car, and I'm like, this is not right. And they all started to gang up on me, just one person. They ganged up, and this one guy says that I was looking at his girl, and he was mad. And from that point, they got in the car, and they ran over to me, and I was like, you know what? There's like 5 guys against one person. At that time, I still didn't have my canyones. I didn't like, it took me, you know, I didn't grow a pair until I was like in my late 20s. So it was like fight or flight, and I think 1 against 5 people, you know, especially when they had rifles in the back, and, you know, they had the flag and everything. I figured, you know, these people, you know, I don't know if they're going to like me from up north, from Jersey, you know what I mean? I'm not going to stand, I'm standing out like a sore thumb, because I was further south. And I decided, okay, it's time to go. So let's get out of here. Well, I did that, and they were behind me. And then they kept following me and following me. And matter of fact, I went faster, they went faster. So at the point I was going well over the speed limit, to the point where at this time I was hoping there was going to be a cop. But there was no cops to be found. They ended up throwing beer bottles out the window, and then one hit the side of my car, put a dent in it. They were trying to get to my windshield. Then I sped up, went faster, they went faster, and I finally hit a back road. And then that's where I lose people. Back windy roads, that's where it ends up going, that's where it ends. I ended up going through a back windy road. They started following me there. Did a couple twists, they got far behind. Then finally turned into a trailer park, and pulled into someone's trailer and told them to call the cops, and they did. The cops came. My car, when I went to pull into the trailer park, they had like a bump, I guess, in their driveway. It's kind of like a dip, and when I went a little too far, I went to dip, and it didn't do any damage. Just that, you know, I had to rock the car out of there because it got stuck. But there was damage from the freaking beer bottles, though. And explained to the cops what was going on. They took the information down, and of course, you know, if they were to find the people, they would be accountable for what they did, especially since they damaged my car. And that was the end of that situation. But I tell you what, that was just another thing that happened to me. And I'm like, well, freak. You know, I move out of Jersey, go further south, and I still deal with this kind of stuff. And I'm starting to think, is there like a dark cloud following me? What is it? And I guess it's just the point that I was speaking up, and I was like, you know, have respect when there's like young women around and the way they were acting. And, you know, at first it was like, I thought it was like just one person and talking to a bunch of other people, and then they just kind of all ganged up together. I'm like, wow. So that's how that went. And I tried to fix it, bondoed it, put a strip on it to cover it up. And I kind of got tired of that car, so then I ended up trading that car in, and traded in for a 1992 Ford Mustang. So had the 92 Ford Mustang, fun little car, had a 4-banger in it, you know, 5-speed manual transmission. And a friend of mine, they had a Mustang. They had the same year, but theirs was a 5.0, and I fell in love with the wheels on theirs because they had the 5-spoke, you know, like the Star. And I had just the plain aluminum with the little, you know, just looked like plain old flat aluminum. And he ended up getting custom wheels, and then I ended up buying those Mustang GT wheels off of him. So it really made the car pop. And had that, it was a light metallic blue. Had that for a while, really, for a long time. Matter of fact, some of my videos, I think if you see an old one, it was like you see me sitting on my car, you know, with a long hair, just talking and stuff. But yeah, that was fun. And then after that, I ended up getting a, I think it was a 1983 Camaro. Yeah, it's an 83, no, it's an 83 Camaro. Yeah. Had the T-tops on it. Fun car. 8-cylinder, of course, so had a lot of power to it. Drove that around. That was a metallic blue. I had a thing for blue cars at the time. So that was a beautiful color and enjoyed that. Drove that to Jersey and back all the time, you know, visiting friends and my old friends. Good car, reliable. And all went well, had no issues with that car. A friend of mine who was, you know, his dad's been a mechanic for like 25 years. I used to always go to his house, hang out, we'd work on the cars, you know, just, it's the fun things. But anyway, it always gets his approval. You know, GM products, that is. So he liked it. But yeah, so that was another car I had, and then it just kept on going and going. It was like, it was another car after that, another car after that. I've been through what? I've had a Chevrolet Cavalier. What else have I had? My gosh, I've had a Dodge Charger. I was say 80, no, it was a 2007. Had one of those. Then there was the another Dodge that I had. It looked like a station wagon. I'm trying to think what it was. A Magnum. So I had the Dodge Magnum. Then I had a Aurora, right? Yeah, and that was a Saturn. Then what else did I have? This is crazy, guys. This is stuff that I go through. Yeah, what else? I got to think, guys. This is a whole lot of cars. Oh yeah, then I had another Dodge Magnum. I had two Dodge Magnums. Then a Infiniti G35, I think it was, a 2011. It was a black one. It had the removable roof on it. Then what else did I have? A 2014 Ford Mustang GT. Then the 2011 Corvette Grand Sport convertible with the beautiful red color, metallic in it. Then it was the 2012 45th anniversary Camaro that had the manual transmission in it, and that's a 6.2 liter V8. And then I had the 2007 Escalade, which caught on fire. The thing, I had to run in the house and get the fire extinguisher, and got it in time before it like made the house catch on fire. But that was a total loss. You know, had an insurance claim on that. And when that became a loss, that's when I ended up getting my Buick Enclave, which was after I had the GMC. Actually, I had the GMC, then I ended up giving that to a friend who needed it because they had children and they needed a vehicle. And, you know, I just had the transmission done under warranty, and it was just like, I didn't need it at the time. And, you know, like I said, my friends would lend me their cars and I would borrow their cars. And it was only like, to me, I was like, they can have it, you know, they could just take care of it and all that good stuff. And this was a long time ago. But then I had a friend of mine who had cars just like that, you know, GM products. So you'd see me out there on the road driving in cars, and half the time they were my cars, and half the time they were a friend of mine, you know. And even up to this day, because I'm working on my friends' cars all the time. So if you see me, you might be driving someone else's car because I'm working on their car and taking it to here to get that, or test driving it. But that's the situation there. So I've been through so many cars. And then, of course, I've had Nissan 370Z. I think it was a 2009. It's crazy. Then it was a 2003 Jaguar convertible. It was, the F-Series. I was like, wow. So, you know, just thinking about all the cars that I went through was like, this is crazy. So there's a lot of experiences that I had with each vehicle, but I'll tell you the most reliable that I've had would be definitely, I say the Camaro was very reliable. The Corvette was very reliable. And now I'm, you know, Toyota Camry, you know, the XSE. It's a new reliable car. And of course, this, you know, can't just buy these cars, you know, cash unless you make a lot of money. You just get a bank loan and pay it off, you know, after 72 months, right? So that's what it is, guys. But anyway, I know this is long, but yeah, so that's the Camry right there. Just doing some work on it. No engine work or anything. But also, I want to let you know, if you're going to do any kind of work, make sure you test it. Plug this in your OBD2 port it connects with your phone, and you can be able to see any engine trouble codes that it pulls up. And of course with me, when I'm changing tires and wheels, I always have a way to reset my Tpms sensors, because you know they tell you how much pressure's in your wheels, because right there, of course, the tires. Those are for the Camaro. But that's what's going on here. So this is what I'm working on. So it's reliable. Airing it out because there's some smell in there. I don't know what it is. It just smells like cherries. It smells like cherry fragrance. Somewhere in this car is a cherry fragrance smell. And it drives me crazy. I can't figure it out. But this is what it looks like in here. It's a, you know, reliable family car. But, oh boy. All right, well, that's what's going on here. Let me show you. I think I got it going. It won't stop. But see what I'm trying to do is trying to air it out, because it's way too much of that fragrance. I don't know what it is, but my thoughts is that it was the tire, the spare tire has this weird, strong cherry smell. It really does. And still working on this project here. As you see, I did those flaps there, so they're installed. They're all looking good. So that's a done project. You know, my friends like that I do these things, but I guess that's it. I'm gonna go. I gotta get out of here. You guys take care. Have a safe week, because that's it. Monday's coming tomorrow. And I don't know how much editing I got ahead of me, but I just wanted to share some of these things, because, you know, I had some stories I wanted to share with you guys, and I figured I'd do it here. And I still have no access to my YouTube channel because my phone is still not working, so I cannot access the two-step verification to be able to log in. So figured I would just, like I said, post on Brianna's All for Fun Vlogs channel until I can get that situation squared away. Other than that, I got to get out of here. I got a lot going on. I mean, I had a 4-day weekend, which is nice, and my 4-day weekend's about to end because today's the last day of my 4-day weekend. So that's going to be it, guys. Take care, be safe, and all of you are amazing. And I'm glad if you watched this video this far. That's awesome. I want to be able to share more of these kind of videos with you and talk more about what's gone on in my life. Try to probably condense it down a little bit so it's not so long, because, you know, sometimes it can just be dragged out so much. But that's it, guys. Take care, and like always, be safe, and that's it. Bye.